picture leaked out on the 9th of May. DM showing the finger sign. People have asked me if it's real or fake. It's real. Look at the timing downstairs. 13th November 2022 at 3:33 a.m. Look at the floor. It looks sticky. And that floor makes a lot of creaky noise. So it's impossible that the surviving roommates did not hear anything. I found the picture to be very interesting. Let's not forget at 2:26 a.m., Kaylee starts to call Jack D. Kaylee calls Jack 6 times between 2:26 a.m. to 2:44 a.m. From 2:44 to 2:52, Maddie calls Jack D 3 times. Then Kaylee makes a final call to him at 2:52. And they are both never heard from again. She says that's Alivira. May the victims rest in peace. Condolence to the families. May the correct justice be served. So this was what was happening between 2:26 to 2:52. Thank God Kaylee's sister found it from Kaylee's phone, because they can see her phone logs. They have the family phone log, family member thing, I guess. 2:52. Pay attention to this. Why was Kaylee and Maddie calling Jack D? Did they sense danger? Did they hear somebody in the house? Was somebody coming to attack them? But the G family said, oh, it was all drunk calls and nothing else. I don't believe that personally.
Times the night she was slain.
At 2:26 a.m., Kaylee starts to call Jack. Kaylee calls Jack 6 times between 2:26 a.m. to 2:44 a.m.
Gosh, I give you a lot of credit. You're almost like a detective here, putting all the pieces.
I'm very sorry to meet you this way. What do you want people to know about your sister?
Yeah, I think the most important thing to know about Kaylee is she was a go-getter and she was an absolute fighter. And I want people to take this personally because she was everyone's daughter. You know, she's the neighbor, she's the friend. You know, she was the girl who made your coffee in the morning. And everyone should be taking this personally.
So we're taking it personally, and it doesn't make any sense. Certainly not to you. In terms of what you understood about your sister's life, was there any threat that she had ever had? Was there anybody who was coming after her on social media? Did she have a past, a problem with a boyfriend or a friend? Anything to inform why somebody would do something so violent to her, her friend, her other roommate, and her boyfriend?
Absolutely, there's nothing. There's no boy problem. There's no threat. There's no high-risk lifestyle that could have indicated this. It has taken all of us completely by shock, and we have absolutely no ideas. None.
Other than just dealing with the tremendous loss for your family, is what in terms of the investigation?
I think this happened in a small town, and I absolutely understand that local authorities were probably overwhelmed, and I don't blame them at all. They did exactly what they should have done. But we're losing critical time, and I want more coverage. I want more done. I understand that we can't release information. It's an ongoing investigation. I understand that we can't release information. It's an ongoing investigation. I don't ask for that. I don't want to impede on anything, but I want more people speaking out. And if that takes the police to push that agenda, that's fine. But unfortunately, I feel like it's been me and the families pushing that agenda, and that's been really difficult. Now,
So let's come back to the phone calls that was made by Kaylee and Maddie. Kaylee started her phone calls from 2:26 a.m. to Jack right up to 2:44. I think that could have possibly been just drunk calls, like the family said. But my doubt starts from 2:44 to 2:52. Why would Maddie need to call Jack? Why would Maddie need to call Jack? And I find 2:52 to be a very interesting timeline. That's the last call Maddie made to Jack D. 2:52. 2:53. Maddie Morgan calls Bethany Funk. Is that escapoto evidence? That is 1 minute after Maddie made her last call to Jack D. So she literally hanged up and called Bethany Funk. I believe Maddie was worried. She was frightened. They heard something. She called Jack D. Jack D wasn't answering. So she called Bethany Funk because she lives in the first floor, ground floor, to ask her if she could hear what she's hearing. Possibly. Now what I find interesting is pay attention. From 2:53 in the 911 transcripts up to 3:51, that's almost 1 hour. Nobody texts each other. Nobody calls each other. I believe, unfortunately, trigger warning, all 4 victims are unalived by 2:53 or 2:55, because you hear a female yelling out, "Stop it, stop!" And that is from the Banfield cops' body cam, both the cops. So 2:55, something was definitely going on. 2:53 to 3:51, everything is silent. Is that when the unalivings were completed? I think it was completed by 3:30. I'll show you why. But first pay attention to the fact that Maddie Morgan calls BF at 2:53 and Maddie Morgan called Jack D last at 2:52. 2:55, you hear a female yelling, "Stop it, stop." It could have been Maddie or Kaylee. Let's come back to this picture that was posted by Dylan. You can say Dylan M26. What does the time say? 3:33 a.m. 13th November 2022. The floor looks sticky. Why is this timeline important? Because if you'll remember, I showed y'all Maddie Morgan calls BF at 2:53. And then everything is quiet from 2:53 to 3:51. Was it? Almost an hour, everything was quiet. This picture was taken in the period it was quiet. Isn't that interesting? These pictures were taken around 3:30 that same night. The one to the right with the guy with the black mask on was taken exactly at 3:30 on Snapchat Geo. So this is happening within the hour. It's quiet. Nobody's texting at each other. Nobody's calling each other. Isn't that interesting? And the last call Maddie Morgan made was not to Jack D. That was at 2:52 to Jack D. The last call, unfortunately, Maddie Morgan made was to Bethany Funk at 2:53. And then it's quiet from 2:53 to 3:52. Within the hour, of silence all these pictures have been taken. It's heartbreaking. What happens in the dark will always come to the light. God doesn't like evil. Neither do we. What was the motive? Revenge? For Halloween? Maybe DM wasn't involved, but maybe she didn't call 911 on purpose. Allegedly. Where was Bethany Funk that night? The tripod said that they recorded a female running from the sliding door right to the front of the house, and a black truck was parked there. We saw the black truck. I hope the tripod evidence comes out in the trial. Why did DM invite Kaylee to come back that night? So Kaylee was a target too. Others, they could have done it any other night. Why that night when Kaylee came to show off her car? According to the police. Was this a setup? I believe it was all pre-planned. I've always said, I believe it was an inside job. Inside and outside job. There were people in the inside working on this, allegedly. I won't be surprised if the suspects were already waiting inside the house before the victims even came home. Do you remember this picture? This was taken the same day, on the 12th of September, because you can see the clothes they're wearing was the same clothes that the 4 victims, the 2 surviving roommates, and Ethan wore. The picture on Taylor Avenue. The picture where Kaylee says, "I'm one lucky girl to wake up every day with these beautiful people." How sad. They were backdoored. It was a setup, in my opinion. What is interesting is you can see Kaylee's bed to the left. So Kaylee did not move out yet. Why would Kaylee be sleeping in Maddie's room? It would have been easier for Maddie to have been sleeping in Kaylee's room because Kaylee wasn't alone. She had the dog, Murphy. Kaylee's stuff was not packed. Kaylee could have slept comfortably with Maddie in her room. She had a double bed. I believe, like I've always said, Maddie was sleeping in her room and Kaylee heard Maddie yelling or something, so she came to her defense. And tragically, she was unalived in Maddie's bed. That's what I believe. What do you all think? So let's summarize. This is the 911 calls, 13th November 2022. 2:53 is really important. Maddie Morgan calls BF, Bethany Funk. Then it's quiet for almost an hour. That is when DM allegedly took the pictures and the people in the mosque took the pictures. 3:30 is when the Venmos were flying around. A lot was happening between 2:53 to 3:51. 3:51, DM creates a new contact in a phone. I wonder who is that interesting contact she created. 4:19, BF calls DM. 4:20, DM calls Zana. I think they're calling the roommates to get an alibi, in my opinion. Let me know what you'll think. May the victims rest in peace and may the correct justice be served.